accessories for various systems, including the 3DO.
Our main review is The Lion King on the Mega Drive.
And Violet makes friends with a virtual puppet called Tizzy, the latest innovation from the people who brought you the Muppets.
Oh, Furtlers, I've got terrible toothache. I've tried everything. Medicine, herbal remedies, even thinking good thoughts. There's only one thing for it. Oh, but first, here's a cheat for Mega Man on the Game Boy. It gets you whisked to the last level. Oh! Just enter A2, A3, B4, C2 and C3 on the code screen. And there you are, the last level. Oh, right, that is it. Oh, Furtlers, it fell on my foot. Oh, toothache's cured though. Hey, oh, my foot. Oh, mouth feels much better. Oh, my foot.
Looks like he's got foot and mouth disease. All right, I give up, I submit, Uncle.
Shut it, Crane. These space-age guns and headsets are the latest in home quasar battle gear from Sega. All right, off you go, Scarper. The guns have an infrared transmitter, and there's a receiver in the other player's headset. So I can only shoot Andy, and Andy can only shoot me. Oh, and that din means that I've been hit. OK, Andy, 1, 2, 3. Each player starts off with 9 lives, which is displayed in the headset there. And the reason for that is that it's reflected down into this retractable eyepiece, so you can see how you're doing. It's just as well to keep an eye on how you're doing, because once it's down to 0, it's game over. Oh, and there's no escaping either, because the guns have an incredible range of 120 feet.
She got me. Oh. And at 30 quid a set, I should imagine these will be in a few Christmas stockings. Guns are the hot accessory this year. This is the 3DO version of Mad Dog 2: The Lost Gold, follow-up to the brilliant arcade game Mad Dog McCree. It works like this. Your television picture is made up by a dot of light racing rapidly from left to right, from the top to the bottom of your screen. When you fire the gun, the screen flashes white, and this sensor in the end of the gun figures out where the dot's got to and positions the shot accordingly. Looks like a couple of rootin' tootin' shooters are ready for a brawl.
Didn't last long, did you?
Lethal Enforcers 2 is another sequel to a classic arcade game. Once again, it's set in the Wild West. 2 people can team up together to gun down the dastardly varmints that have hit town. There's some good speech and a plethora of different weapons to keep you culling those bad guys.
Continuing in the Western theme, this is the original and, in our opinion, the best version of Mad Dog McCree on the CDI. The arcade game was the first to use Laserdisc, and the home version is the first to use full motion video.
You took a bad hit.
It's the nearest you'll get to the arcade experience. Unlike its 3DO counterpart, it doesn't use screen scanning, it uses infrared. It's that box of tricks at the top of the monitor that does all the work. Okay, let's see how I get on one-on-one against Mad Dog himself. Draw!
You've seen the film, you've fought the cuddly toy, and you've hummed along to the Elton John tune. Now it's time to play the game. Disney's latest blockbuster, The Lion King, hits the shops on the Mega Drive, Game Gear and Master System this week. It's out on the SNES next week, with versions to come on Game Boy, NES, Amiga and PC. You follow Simba through 10 levels from exiled cub to fully grown King of the Plains. The animation is staggering, but as ever, the big question is how does it play? Here's Sahale.
This has to get the prize as the most appealing game character of all time. The cub's beautifully drawn and he's a real treat to play. The good thing about this game is that it's not just all bouncing around, there's a strong puzzle element. Here you have to roar at the monkeys so they turn round and throw you in the opposite direction over the river. The colours on this level are a bit garish, but the sound effects are excellent. Here the rhino's just throwing me up and the monkeys are throwing me over the river, so I should be able to complete the level pretty soon. There, I've landed on the ostrich, and from now on it's just average platform stuff. Halfway through the game, as in the film, Simba grows up and you get to play as the Lion King, and you can have some pretty good fights like this one. Some of the levels in the game are a bit too linear, and this is one of them. Another gripe I've got is that some of the puzzles in the game are far too hard. You just don't know what you're supposed to do. Like here, for example, you can't go left and you can't go right, so what's the point? It took me ages to figure out what you have to do. You have to jump up and hit the stalactites on the roof so they fall down and you can access the lower part of the level. It's the best looking, most playable Disney game yet, but it does get a bit annoying when you keep getting stuck.
This is brilliant. It's full of cute touches and will keep you amused for hours.
It looks good, but it's just too hard to work out what's going on sometimes.
And the scores for Lion King: a purring 4 from the boys and a roaring 5 from the girls. Excellent scores. Now, have a look at this. 25 years ago today, Sesame Street was launched on an unsuspecting world. It featured an entirely new cast of characters: Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy and Big Bird. The man behind Kermit was called Jim Henson, and the company he founded is still making puppets and puppet shows. A couple of weeks ago, Violet journeyed to their British headquarters to check out their latest project.
I've come to Studio B in the jungles of northwest London to unearth the secrets of Jim Henson's latest puppet creations. Come with me.
3, 2, 1, action!
We've been invited backstage for the filming of a brand new programme called The Animal Show. It's being brought to us by the same people who did The Muppets and the larger-than-life creatures in films like The Dark Crystal and The Flintstones. And these guys.
Hey, look, it's a camera. There's a camera down. Hi! Hey, Stinky!
The Animal Show is a chat show for animals, hosted by a skunk called Stinky and his polar bear pal, Jake.
We have to go work now.
But at Hensons, they're doing something completely new by mixing conventional puppetry with the latest computer technology, as their third star is a computer-generated bee. Up until now, when performers had to work with animated characters who were drawn in later, it was always difficult for them to react to an empty space or to know exactly where to look. Now, with this new technique, both director and performers can see the character as it's being generated, at the same time as the rest of the action.
I see.
Hi, Violet. I'm Tizzy, a computer graphic bee.
Hi, Tizzy! Traditional puppetry techniques are still used to control Tizzy's movements, but what's completely new is that Tizzy doesn't actually exist. She's entirely computer-generated.
Wow.
Tizzy started off life as a basic 3D model. She was then scanned into a Silicon Graphics Onyx computer, and the next step is to add all the immense detail of character which will really bring her to life. Having created this wireframe from thousands of triangles, they produce a skeleton which will enable Tizzy to move. It's not based on the true skeleton of a bee, but it does enable them to add facial moves and expressions which make Tizzy larger than life. The final stage is to link these movements in the computer to the controllers that the puppeteers use on the floor of the studio. There are actually two Tizzys. This is a low-resolution version of Tizzy, produced live in real time. Later, it gets replaced by the final Tizzy, who has much more detail.
The question
The
is...
three puppeteers work in unison to provide all the actions to make Tizzy believable. She can smile, laugh, fly around and zoom in and out of the screen. She's actually quite a handful, and there's a lot for the production team to get right. How do you think you'd cope in the hot seat? This is real fantasy stuff. I've always wanted to direct a Henson movie. Getting the take stored on computer is only the beginning. Now the real work begins. Tizzy Mark II is created upstairs in the computer editing suite.
We do essentially the same process that we were doing on the floor, but this time taking more time over each frame, adding a certain amount of blur, putting the wings on, and using a much higher resolution model. And the result is like this.
But seeing as Tizzy doesn't really exist, how does the cameraman keep her in focus?
Well, that's one of the things that we've had to teach the cameraman to do, is to focus on things that aren't there. And so it gives the effect of Tizzy always being in focus and the background blurring, which just adds to the realism in the shot.
So he just guesses?
He just guesses, yeah.
One day later, the finished model is stunningly realistic, even though it hasn't quite got the power to sting like a bee. Or has it? Sorry, Tizzy, I hate to break this news to you, but you don't actually exist. You only exist inside a computer.
Are you sure? Maybe you're the one that doesn't exist.
No, unfortunately for us, you do exist. It looks like a good show. Do you have a good day?
Yeah, it was brilliant. And look out for the show, because it should be on our screens in the new year. But now for this week's news and previews.